Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2023 Rocket Mortgage DFS Tactics Show. We are here for all of your last minute questions and information that you need to finalize your wagers for this week's Rocket Mortgage Classic and to dominate the DFS slate. We're going to be covering the ownerships, or projected ownerships, the forecasts, all of that, and I believe I've got a really interesting mad scientist play. Not quite true calls fashion of the minimum 6,000, but it's pretty damn close, and I'm quite excited to share that with you. So let's get into it, shall we? All statistics provided tonight and every night are from fantasynational.com. It is the best tool out there for golf analytics, in my opinion. There's a lot of great tools out there, no doubt about it. I simply believe Fantasy National is the best. Go check them out. You will not regret it. In the description to the video, there are links to all of the social media. First off, my Twitter and Instagram, where I posted research earlier this week around previous champions of the Rocket Mortgage Classic and how much or how easy this course has been over the years. So if you would like to see the weekly research that I find for the PGA Tour, give me a follow at your preferred social media site. Twitter is also where I place my betting cards every week for the PGA Tour. That will be no different. It comes out every Wednesday evening after the DFS Tactics Show. So if you want to see the wagers that I make every week, then give me a follow over at Twitter. And then Twitter is also where I do my baseball content, although, to be honest, I have been lax on that. I've been very busy with golf content and personal things outside of the stream and social media and whatnot. But if you want to see some quick-hitting baseball content, give me a follow over at Twitter. I will get back to some baseball content, I promise you that. And then for Gabe, his Twitter is in the description as well. Make sure you go give him a follow and subscribe to his article called The Fringe. It's a very good article. It's a very good way to start your week of preparation. And with this being Wednesday evening after the DFS Tactics Show, I will be in his Substack chat, continuing the DFS discussion. So if you have more questions than we're able to get to tonight, make sure you are a subscriber to Gabe's Fringe article. It's called The Fringe, his weekly article, and we will continue the DFS discussion over there. We've been working closely for the past couple of months, and we've both had some pretty good success. I don't think it's any coincidence with two analytic minds working together. So again, make sure to go give Gabe a follow and subscribe to his article. And then lastly, for this intro, we are live. Chat is open. Again, want to hear from you. I want the interaction. Who are the players that you are thinking about using, pivoting to, and fading away from? Who is your winner? Who is your selected winner this week for the Rocket Mortgage? How do you think the course is going to play? All of that good stuff. Have your questions ready. We are here to answer those. Let's finalize our strategies and our tactics for the 2023 Rocket Mortgage. And we're going to start, as we do every Wednesday evening, over at Windfinder. As soon as I can figure out what day of the week is and get my life together. You see here quite a bit of wind tomorrow is in the forecast. Now, I am not in Detroit or the area close to there. I have heard that the course is pretty soft. They supposedly got quite a bit of rain Monday. At least that was the forecast on Windfinder here. And it looks like they're going to get some more rain perhaps tomorrow. There's been forecasts throughout this week where Thursday night was going to have some rain. Looks like maybe a little bit of rain on the weekend as well. It looks like the course is going to be soft. But especially tomorrow, it looks to be windy. Nothing severe, but you will have some gusts, especially in the afternoon, upwards into perhaps the 20-mile-an-hour range. And then it looks like perhaps a front is coming in, as the high is supposed to be 88 on Friday and then cool off. With this forecast, I think it is pretty clear that the Thursday AM, Friday PM portion would have the advantage. How much of an advantage is up for a debate, but I do believe the forecast listed here would have you use more of the Thursday AM, Friday PM half of the draw. Especially if this forecast holds and they get a bunch of rain or Friday afternoon that would push the tee times into Saturday. With that said, I'm not going to factor a draw or a favorable split into my considerations for lineups. The forecast has changed significantly throughout this week. It has been pretty volatile, and there is no guarantee that this rain, one, even shows up, two, would force the tee times to be pushed back. So if you want to believe in the forecast, then I would go with a Thursday AM, Friday PM favor. Myself, I am not going to factor that in. I'm just going to play the guys that I feel are best suited for the Rocket Mortgage and Detroit Golf Club, and I will take my chances with the wind and the forecast from there. Evening, Darnell. Thanks for jumping into chat. I know we've talked quite a bit today, but just for transparency for the community, Darnell and I always like to have a friendly little banter of a 1v1, and I think we agreed on who those two players are going to be tonight. I will reveal that when we get to my rankings, and we'll see the price board and all that stuff. So make sure to remind me if I don't get to that, Darnell. But thanks again for jumping in chat. Hopefully you are ready for the Rocket Mortgage, and that baseball has been going well. But there's a look at the forecast for Detroit Golf Club and the Rocket Mortgage. I'm not factoring anything in terms of wind, but there does appear to be some wind, especially tomorrow in the forecast. And if we zoom out and take a look at Saturday and Sunday, looks like Saturday looks great. Sunday, again, could be some rain perhaps moving in, but we don't have the super forecast, so it's hard to say. So with that, we're going to move to Fantasy National. And because, because of the forecast that we just saw, especially tomorrow with the wind, you see I have the moderate and windy filter selected. And going back to the beginning of 2022, the past 18 months, your top players in moderate and windy conditions have been Justin Thomas, Sung Jae, Tony Finau, Keegan Bradley, Max Homa, Chris Kirk, Tom Hoagie, Hideki, Brian Harmon, and Scott Stallings. I'm going to skip Scott Piercy. He is one of the two more field changes that have happened since Monday evening. So as of Monday evening, we had Andrew Putnam, Patrick Rogers, and Hayden Buckley withdrawn from the tournament. Since Monday, two more have happened: Harris English and Scott Piercy. So make sure those 5 players are not in your lineups if you submitted lineups early. Andrew Putnam, Patrick Rogers, Hayden Buckley, Harris English, and Scott Piercy. But anyway, there's a look at the top 10, and I'll scroll down to about, roughly the top 25 or so in terms of wind players. And then the other side of the coin, if you will, players who haven't played well in the wind: Andrew Landry, Harry Higgs, Nick Watney, Max McGreevy, Dylan Wu, Jason Duffner, Richie Wierenski, Jimmy Walker, Ryan Brim, Norlander, and so on down, trying to highlight the players that have enough rounds to make it significant. You'll see players like Marty Doe and Nikolai Højgaard. They've got a few rounds in the wind, but not enough that I would consider it a substantial enough sample size. there's your wind metrics. We've looked at Don Ross quite a bit, and I want to make sure I get or have time for everyone's questions this evening. So if you want to see the top total performers for Don Ross, make sure you check out Monday and Sunday evenings shows. But to finalize kind of the recap here, quick hitting recap, the thing we know for certain about Detroit Golf Club in the 4 years that it has been in play since 2019, it is very, very easy. 14 of the 16 rounds have been listed as easy. So your top performers, when a round has been easy the past 18 months: Tom Kim, Tony Finau, Hideki, Tom Hoagie, Justin Thomas, Alex Smalley, Brian Harmon, Max Homa, JJ Spawn, and Thomas Detry. We'll scroll on down, let you see the top 30 there. Continuing on to about the top 15 or so: Taylor Moore, Akshay Bhatia, Tyler Duncan, Colin Morikawa, Ryan Palmer, and so on. These are your top players when a round has been easy the past 18 months. And then the other side of that coin, the other end of the spectrum, players who have not played well when a round has been easy: Max McGreevy, Ryan Brim, Andrew Landry, Brian Stewart, Nick Watney, Trevor Cohn, Richie Wierenski, MJ Duffy, Jimmy Walker, Chad Ramey, Andrew Novak, and so on down. So if you are in a tiebreaker scenario between players, I'm going to suggest that you use this easy to par filter to be your tiebreaker, as even with the rain and the wind, I am still very confident that that Detroit Golf Club is going to play easy. All right, with that, let me reset this, kind of bring this to the calendar year in case we want to look at some specific players. But we're going to move to the mixed condition model that I have made for the week. And it is pretty simple in terms of not a lot of filters have been used in this. I kind of thought to myself and wanted to get back to basics a little bit, especially since I put so much effort into the Travelers and it was a disaster. And really, you'll see that there are two main portions of this mixed condition model, and they're the two biggest parts of Detroit Golf Club. So it really doesn't lend itself to a complicated mixed condition model. We have 10% in strokes gained approach, up 5% from last year's mixed condition model. And a lot of that is the fact that I was using strokes gained total in a couple of different ways last year. I had some percentage, so I default to adding to strokes gained approach whenever I feel it is worthwhile. Not a lot, though, this week, as strokes gained approach is mitigated in importance. We've talked all week that the most important shot type here at Detroit Golf Club is putting. Putting dominates in terms of your top 10s, your top 5s, your winners, so on and so forth. And that generally is the case for courses that have bent and Poa annua as is. So 20% in strokes gained putting going all the way back to 2019 on bent and Poa annua surfaces. So with that, make sure that you understand in my rankings, players like Brendan Todd, players like Adam Hadwin are going to rise significantly. These just generic good putters. That's why Denny McCarthy was so very, very high last week at the Travelers. Now, he did play well, but that's why he was so high in my rankings, is that he was just a generic good putter. So that's a little bit of something to that. But I also want to emphasize the players who really excel on this surface, and that's going to that's a bit of foreshadowing into another player or to a player that I'm back on this week, and it's going to probably bite me in the ass again. But 20% on bent and Poa Anna putting. But the biggest part of the mixed condition model this week, and we talked about it ad nauseum seemingly on Monday evening, we saw it all week in statistics, this is a birdie fest. This course has generally produced some of the lowest scores on the PGA Tour, especially for winners. Bogeys be damned, you got to go and get birdies. If you get a bogey, it's okay as long as you back it up with 3 or 4 birdies, because there are plenty of them here at Detroit Golf Club. 25%, a full quarter of the mixed condition model in birdies or better gained when a round is easy. Hey P, good evening. Thanks for jumping in chat. Hopefully your week has went well. You are ready for the Rocket Mortgage. All of that good stuff. Appreciate you jumping by. So yes, 45%, almost half of the mixed condition model is in 2 metrics, a full quarter in just 1 metric, but I truly believe it is the most important aspect of a golfer's repertoire for Detroit Golf Club. You have got to be able to go low. Birdies are free here, just like Detroit real estate. Birdies galore here. That is correct. You are right in that. And I mentioned that we don't want to look at eagles. Eagles do happen, but actually not as much as you would think for a course that is so easy. The highest eagle rate hole is only about 2.5%. It's a decent eagle rate, but not astronomical. So that's why we're looking at birdies or better gained, not separating out eagles. Evening, Mark. Been a while. Thanks for jumping back into chat. Good to see you. Hopefully you are ready for the Rocket Mortgage and have been doing well otherwise. Good to see you. So 50% of the mixed condition model in those 3 metrics there. The last metric with any kind of filter, and we talked a little bit about this on Monday, is driving distance. Now, Microsoft Excel really exacerbated the importance of driving distance here. I believe it was 60% or close to that in terms of importance against other full field courses. And I think that's a bit misleading, as distance is not mandatory here, but it certainly helps because these fairways are easy to hit. So if everyone's going to be using driver, I want to see who is the furthest. If anything, I think this is going to be a little light this week. I really debated on putting 10% in driving distance, only because the course is supposedly very, very soft from all the rain that the area has gotten. Apparently there was a lot of rain on Monday. It is still soft. There's rain still in the forecast. I don't see many players being able to get a lot of rollout here. So true carry distance, not even driving distance, just true carry distance is going to be a pretty big factor, I think, this week. If the course is indeed as soft as I've heard it is. But only 5% driving distance. I want to emphasize the distance players over the fairway gained players this week, and especially so with the supposed soft conditions. The rest of the mixed condition model, fairly basic in terms of the metrics, and no breakouts in terms of filters. We looked throughout Monday's show. Par 3s don't seem to be a pretty big deal, especially for winners. Winners, the par 3s weren't a big deal at all, so only 5%. And looking at all par 3s, I upped the percentage of the par 4s up to 10% for total par 4s. I ended up splitting out each of the ranges that have 4 par 4s in them. There are 4 par 4s that measure 350 to 400. There are 4 par 4s that measure 450 to 500. Here at Detroit Golf Club, the other 2 are 400 to 450. But I only wanted to put 5% in each of these, as I didn't want to overemphasize par fours because I knew birdies and birdies are better was needed to be the focal point. I wanted putting to be a focal point. So only 5% in the individual ranges of par fours, and then 10% in total. And then lastly, again, par fives are the third most important part of Detroit Golf Club, and especially the length that I've separated out. The 550 to 600. I want to see the players who play these lengths of par fives the best. There are 3 of them here at Detroit Golf Club. This is going to be where a lot of the players make or break, as the other par 4 is a true 3-shot par 4. Very, very few of the players will be able to reach that green in 2, especially with how soft it is. So I wanted to emphasize this length of par 5, and you see 15% there. So there's the mixed condition model for the Rocket Mortgage this week. Perhaps areas where I will be cold. If off the tee ends up being a thing, then I will be cold to that. We saw in Microsoft Excel that 2 of the years here at Detroit Golf Club off the tee was fairly significant. In 2 years, it wasn't significant at all. So if it does end up playing more important, because of the supposed soft conditions, if around the green matters, if greens in regulation matter, I will be cold to those. But I just stuck with what I knew about Detroit Golf Club, emphasizing the putting, emphasizing birdies are better. So there's a look at the mixed condition model for the week. Let's move on over to Microsoft Excel and the reveal of my rankings. My top 10 for the Rocket Mortgage this week goes as such. Max Homa is my number 1 player. Tony Finau number 2. Ricky, Sungjae, and Keegan Bradley round out my top 5. Hideki, Mark Hubbard, Colin Morikawa, Tom Kim, and Akshay Bhatia round out my top 10. As I was mentioning with the putting, just keep in mind the fact that players who are generally good putters are going to rise. Players like Harry Hall, who just fell out of the top 10. Adam Hadwin is pretty high up here in the top 35, but you see he is 7th. You see he has not played this course well. The analytics by the numbers were kind of mediocre on him. He's really rising. A lot of that due to the putting, because you see he doesn't really go low, especially when it's easy. He's getting helped by the putting. But as I was mentioning, there is a certain player that I'm going to be back on this week. It bit me last week as he missed the cut. I'm back on Max Homa. His win at the Silverado is bent and Poa annua. He's generally a good putter anyway. So if Max Homa doesn't play well, I will lose again. But I have to believe, if I was so big on putting for the Travelers, it's just as important here at the Rocket Mortgage. I'm going to be back on the Max Homa bandwagon this week. Oh, hell no. Well, it is what it is. He had a very, very good Friday, not unlike Colin Morikawa, who missed the cut as well. But Max Homa was very, very poor on Thursday. So, like I said, he's very good going low when you need to. Top 10 in irons, second best in par 4s. He's got plenty of distance. 55th. So again, understand that he is rising because of the extra emphasis in putting, but even so, he's still rated out second in terms of by the analytics. Course value, we didn't talk much about that this week, but the prior history for the Rocket Mortgage is very erratic. So prior course performance is not too big of a deal here. The course has only been on tour for 4 years. Cam Davis, who won in 2021, missed the cut his first 2 years and then wins. Tony Finau was tied 53, I think, before he won. It's just not course performance. Previous course performance isn't the biggest of deals. So this is a pretty low percentage in my weighted rankings, which means I am gravitating more towards players who are uniquely owned. And you can see that, at the bottom half of my top 10 and into my top 20. But yeah, Max Homa, I'm going to be on him again. A lot of it just with the Bent and Poa annua. If I was high on him at the Travelers, I'm going to be consistent because this is Bent and Poa annua. Tony Finau should be pretty good. I think he's going to check in at more than 12.5%. I would have to think. But, when it's easy, take a look at his win earlier this year at Mexico. A pretty easy track. He can go low when it matters. Number 1 in irons in this field. Number 1 in par 4s. We know about his distance. Nothing saying that Tony Finau shouldn't be very good this week. Ricky, everything lines up to be very, very good. He's the number 1 analytics player by the numbers, purely by the numbers. That's a lot of ownership. It's a smart play. It's a good play, but you're setting yourself up for a 5v5 using Ricky. And we'll get into that once we get into the price board. Just because Keegan won last week doesn't preclude him from performing well this week. He's played well at Detroit when he's come here. I believe he's 3 for 3, making the cut here at Detroit. We saw how well he putt last week. The length of the par 5s here, very, very good. Elite at them. So I don't see anything that would suggest that Keegan isn't going to play well unless you think he has the hangover from his win this past week. There's a look at my top 10. Let's sort on the price board, figure out where we want to pivot to and fade away from and all of that. So I'm going to sort on salary. And in the 5 digits, in the 10Ks, we have 5 players. Tony Finau, Collin Morikawa, Ricky Fowler, Max Homa, and Justin Thomas. You see all 5 of these guys are inside the top 15 in my rankings, so I like all of these plays with the exception of one, and it's actually not Justin Thomas. I'm still concerned with Collin Morikawa. Now, yes, he had a very, very good Friday last week, shooting, I think, 7, 8 under, missing the cut on the number. Anytime you're dealing with a back issue, I've got to be wary. Now, he could be fully healthy, but I don't know if I'm willing to take that chance. He's never played the Rocket Mortgage. Again, I just got through mentioning that it's not the biggest deal, but he's never seen the course. He's also not long off the tee. He doesn't have a lot of carry distance. So if the course is soft, it's going to play really, really long for him. Not the best putter. I'm a little bit cautious on Collin Morikawa. Otherwise, again, Max Homa I'm going to be using. I don't think I can... 20.5% is a whole lot of ownership. Everything tells me that should be a complete fade. But his worst stat, is 36th, which is pretty damn good considering there's about 154 players in the field this week. 36th, he's in the top 20%, and that's his worst statistic. Everything analytically says Ricky Fowler's going to be very, very good this week. But what you would gain by using him is not nearly as much as what you will gain if you don't use him. This is a game theory line of thinking. That if Ricky Fowler doesn't perform well, I'm not even talking about missing the cut. If he just doesn't play well, if he finishes outside the top 20, you're gaining a whole lot on everybody that's seemingly using him. So I don't know if it's going to be a full fade. Will Gordon and Nate Lashley. I actually don't mind one of those two. I am completely off of the other one of those two. So we'll get to that. And I believe they're both in the low sevens. But I don't know if I'm going to... I don't even know if I'm going to be able to full fade Ricky. But that's a lot of ownership. A lot of ownership. And you're setting yourself up for a 5v5 from the beginning. Talked about Max Homa. Justin Thomas showed signs of life. We had a nice little quick convo about that and where we didn't know where his game is. I don't think Justin Thomas knew where his game was. Came back to life last week at the Travelers. That said, he did have a very good putting week, and he's generally not a good putter. So I do worry about the putter cooling off. But it is Justin Thomas. He is probably one of the top 3 in terms of talent in this field. So it wouldn't surprise me if he plays well. Justin Thomas is the 4th of the 5 in here because I do worry a little bit about the putter. And I mentioned Morikawa. I'm just off because of the back. He might be fully healthy, but anytime you're dealing with a back, it just gives me cause for concern. So I'll be using a lot of Max Homa. I will lose if Max Homa doesn't play well again. Finau should be fine. I still think he's going to be more owned than 12.5%. That is what Fantasy National or the members of Fantasy National have him projected at. I've got to believe he's going to be a little bit more owned than that. And Ricky, everyone's going to be tuned in on Ricky this week. So it's a logical decision, but you're going to be gaining a whole lot if you fade him. It's a bold and dangerous thing to do, but you will be gaining a lot if you do. So I'll go Homa 1, Finau 2, Fowler 3, just like in my rankings for the 10Ks, Thomas 4th, and Morikawa 5th for the 10Ks. Moving to the 9s, Tom Kim, Hideki, Sung Jae, Cam Davis, Keegan Bradley. Hideki should be pretty good. He's played really well at Detroit. I'm not terribly concerned with the putter. It's really the driving distance, honestly. As lead of a ball striker he is, he's not the longest. He's long enough, but with the lack of rollout, I'm a little bit cautious on Hideki, and he's the second most projected owned player as well. That's also hurting him in my eyes. But I mean, look, he goes low when it's easy. Top 5 in irons, top 3 in par 4 performance. Again, makes a lot of logical sense, but that is a lot of ownership as well. The player in the 9Ks that I've been really gravitating towards is Tom Kim. And he's not unique by any means, but this is the chalk that I am going to in the highest portions of the price board. His win at the Wyndham, a Don Ross design, just like Detroit Golf Club, emphasizes short par 4s, emphasizes wedges. He's top 5 in irons, top 25 in these in par 4s in general. Where he's going to have to play much better beyond the driving distance because he's not long. So I do see a scenario where he underperforms, he plays poorly. If it is indeed as wet and slow as I've heard, he could be in some trouble with this. But he does not take advantage of par 5s, and that's what you have to do at Detroit Golf Club. I'm concerned with Tom Kim and this. I love everything else about it. The fact that he won another Don Ross design that's very, very similar to Detroit. He tied for 7th here last year. A lot going for him. I do worry about his par 5 performance. He will have to play par 5s well. And so if you're wanting to fade Tom Kim, that would be the reason to do it. Sung Jae, after few weeks where contestants were kind of off of him. Looks like they're back on the Sungjae bandwagon. Okay. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. That's quite a bit of ownership. Sure. Cam Davis has played very, very well here. Champion in 2021. I wouldn't worry too much about the putting. I think it's fine. But he has not... He doesn't have near the form that he did when he won in 2021, coming to the Rocket Mortgage. So, a little bit more cautious on Cam Davis. And then, I don't see any reason why Keegan Bradley won't play really, really well. So, I'll be using quite a bit of Keegan. I don't expect him to win, but I don't see anything that says he's going to completely fall off a cliff. His putter's gotten a lot better, and that's a lot of it due to the aim point. It is what it is. Make what you want out of aim point. It has made Keegan and others good putters. So there's a look at the 9Ks. I'll be using Tom Kim. I'll be using Keegan, so if Keegan doesn't play well, I'll lose. That's a lot of ownership on Hideki. I really like Hideki, but I'm leaning fade. So if he plays well, I could be in some trouble, just like Ricky, because that's a lot of ownership. I mean, a lot of ownership already. Sungjae should be, fine. Just kind of, kind of lukewarm, I guess. Just fairly high in ownership. Good player, 4th in the rankings. Yeah, I don't know. It's fair, I guess. Moving to the 8s. Ludwig Aberg. Think this suits Aberg pretty darn well, and he played the Travelers very, very well, and I didn't think that suited his skill set all that much. I actually think Detroit is a very good course for Ludwig Aberg. He's not going to be as unique as you might hope. He's a little bit less projected owned than some of these other guys, Hideki, Sungjae, and so on. But he is the most projected owned player in the 8Ks. No, I'll take that back. Austin Eckroat's at 8,000. My apologies. But Aberg's going to be pretty popular. He tears apart par 5s. He's got plenty of distance, which I think you're going to need this week with the softness of the course. So I like Aberg. I don't like the ownership. Harmon played very well last week, but he'd always played the Travelers well. He has not played Detroit Golf Club well, so I'm a little bit more shy about Brian Harmon. Chris Kirk's always played Detroit well, which is interesting because he's not the most adept at going low when it's easy. But he's always played well here, so take that what you will. Sepp Straka, all about the irons combined with the putting. He didn't putt well last week, so I might take a look at Sepp Straka. Been on getting a whole lot of love, and I was surprised how high he is in my rankings, but he goes really low when it's easy. And much to my surprise, he's the number 1 driving distance player when a round is easy. So that's a good combination to have for this week. Hadwin, if you're all about the putters, think about Hadwin, but I'm not there. Eckroat is somebody who's getting a whole lot of love. 3rd most projected owned. Okay, I guess I can see it. He's good on the surface. Top 30 in birdies when it's easy. Plays par 4s fairly well. But I would be concerned with these par 5s on Eckroat. I would be. So, I think I like others around Eckroat's prices. I can probably fade Eckroat. Been on. Sepp Straka's intriguing. Chris Kirk, 9.5%. Seems a little low on in my opinion. I don't want any part of Harmon. Don't want any part of Hadwin. All right, moving into the upper sevens. Few names I want to throw out at you. First is Nikolai Højgaard. He's somebody that I narrowed in on early this week. I really think this is going to suit well for Nikolai Højgaard. He played very well at the Corrales. And that while Detroit Golf Club and Corrales don't seem to be comparison courses on initial thought, when you think about it, Corrales, wide fairways, easy to hit, so players have driver in their hand. It's a longer course, just like the Rocket Mortgage is. Corrales is over 7,400, approaching 7,500, whereas Detroit's only about 7,300. But the similarities are more apparent the more you think about it. So I really like Højgaard, and at 5.5% is a very, very talented player to get at that ownership. So take a long look at Højgaard this week. He devours par fives, especially at the length that you have here at Detroit. Again, plenty of distance. I really do wish I could find carry distance, not just driving distance, because I think you need carry distance. But even on these short par fours, 354, it's just fine. Very good at par threes if they end up mattering a little bit more. So I like Højgaard quite a bit. I was really high on Mark Hubbard. He burned me. Kind of like Max Homa, I'm going to be using some more Mark Hubbard this week. He is very, very good on this surface. You see top 5. Other things line up well for him too. 550 to 600 par 5s. Very good. He's top 10 in irons. Damn it, right off your screen. He's 8th in irons. He doesn't have a lot of distance, so that could hurt him. I won't be as high on Mark Hubbard as I was last week, but I will be using some Mark Hubbard around the putter. JJ Spawn, very interesting as well. Sub 10%, which is a little surprising for me. He is the strokes gained total leader the 4 years here at the Rocket Mortgage. He's 4 for 4, averaged, I believe, a 21st place finish. He plays Detroit very well. He doesn't have a lot of distance, but he gets birdies plenty. Par 5s, he's good. He's not great really at anything, but it all comes together to be very good at Detroit. Spawn's usually not somebody I gravitate towards, but there really aren't a lot of bad statistics except for maybe the driving distance. But everything else is pretty solid. You see he's elite or excellent at par 3s, at least in relation to this field. So take a long look at JJ Spawn. Elsewhere in the upper sevens, Bo Hostler, if you really want to believe the putter like Adam Hadwin, I'm not particularly there, but he is putt very, very well on Bit and Poa annua. Davis Riley, very, very talented, but he has kind of disappeared since his win at the Zurich with Nick Hardy. So not sure where his game is. Aaron Rye getting a whole lot of love as well. I can understand it. But he's more of an accuracy player as opposed to a bomber. And he's not good at par 3s. But he does take advantage of par 4s. Very good with the iron. So, somebody to look at, but it's a little bit more ownership than I would be comfortable with. Moving into the low sevens, this is the area of the price board that I've been hanging out quite a bit. Credit to you, P, for last week. I don't know if it was in sarcasm or not, but you mentioned Doug Gim. I wasn't there, and he played very well. Nothing analytically this week says he should be there. So if this is another Doug Gim week, I will go 0 for 2 against you on that. But nothing analytically says he should play well. But you were right on him last week. Taylor Pendrith is somebody that should play well, but he has been a very big disappointment in 2023. Lots of distance. So he's got plenty of distance to play here. He tied for second last year. The irons have been very bad. This should suit Taylor Pendrith well, but he is in no form. To your point, Mark, earlier, Nate Lashley, I don't hate the inaugural winner of the Rocket Mortgage in 2019. Very good putter on the surface. Very good with the irons this calendar year. 6, which is surprising. But he's been very good with the irons. I do worry about his par 5 performance because you have to take advantage of the par 5s. But Nate Lashley is the one of the two that I don't mind in the low 7s. So that tells you what I think about Will Gordon. But Nate Lashley should be fine, 8.5%. I would want it to be a little bit lower, but you can't always get what you want. Ryan Palmer, kind of interesting. Top 5 in birdies or better when it's easy. He's also been 11th in irons this calendar year, which I honestly had to go and triple check it. I couldn't believe it. So if you're going to lean into the birdie fest, really take a look at Ryan Palmer at around 7%. An interesting play for sure. The Donkey Man himself from last week, don't think I can quite get there with him again this week, especially since he's not particularly great when it's easy. He putts the surface well, but man, that I was really high on him, and he backfired in a big way last week. I don't think I can get behind CT Pan. Harry Hall. I want to highlight 2 players at 7,100 for you all. Harry Hall and S.H. Kim, both under 6% in projected ownership right now. They both, small sample size because they're rookies on the PGA Tour, but when a round has been easy, they have gone low. Both of them have putt, bent, and Poa annua surfaces very, very well. Harry Hall is actually just a pretty good putter in general. S.H. Kim has been more of a specialist. But I like both of them in that regard. Harry Hall is taking more advantage of the par 5s. But S.H. Kim has a bit more driving distance. I like both of these players. Both of them have warts. Their irons haven't been the greatest. That's an understatement. Their irons haven't been great. S.H. Kim doesn't particularly take advantage of par 5s. Harry Hall has been very mediocre. He's very mediocre in distance. So they both have their warts, but I like both of these players in the low 7s this week, and they're going to constitute quite a bit of the bottom portion of my teams. Just because you mentioned him, Mark, I wasn't going to. Will Gordon, there's just no thanks. I mean, he's played this event twice. He's been atrocious both times. Doesn't mean, Cam Davis missed the cut in the 2 years leading up to leading up to his win. I just don't see it with Will Gordon. Not a good putter on the surface, whereas Cam Davis is actually pretty good on bent. Even if you get off bent and Poa annua, Cam Davis is pretty good on bent. Will Gordon's just not a good putter on this surface at all. He hasn't taken advantage of par 5s. The short par 4s, he's been very bad. I'm just not there with Will Gordon. So if he plays well, Mark, you'll go one up on, or you'll beat me this week on that. I just cannot recommend Will Gordon with what I see. Then finally, at 7,000 even, Akshay Bhatia, top 10 in my rankings. A lot of it due to the fact that he just goes low when it's easy. Okay. I'm not in love with it, to be honest with you. He's getting a little bit of love. I would much prefer to try to find 100 and go to Harry Hall and S.H. Kim. But I can see the logic behind an Akshay Bhatia. He does take advantage of par 5s, especially of this length. His irons have been much better than Harry Hall's and H. Kim's by miles, as you can see there. So there's enough analytically here with Batia. I'm a little bit more cautious with him. But the one player that I really, really wanted to highlight, and he's getting a lot of love, this is a lot of chalk for somebody this low in the price board. I won't be able to get away from it. I really think this is going to be a good week for Carson Young. He was the second or third outright wager I put in at 181. If I was targeting Højgaard, this week, I was targeting Carson Young early on as well. Loves the surface. It's a very small sample size, but he just coming from the Travelers, where he gained 3.5 on the greens there. Takes advantage of the length of the par fives. The irons are good enough. Par threes are good. Even the long par fours are good. You saw where his bugaboo is. It's not having the distance. But there's no way I'm going to be able to get off this chalk. I will just eat some Carson Young chalk. Really like this play this week. A couple others that I want to mention. Kevin Yu. I was really high on him last week. He played pretty well and then fell apart on the weekend. I still think Kevin Yu's going to be pretty good this week, but he's starting to garner some attention, so he might not be as unique as you think. And lastly, we talked about how if the course is indeed soft, we're going to want some. You're going to want some carry distance. Take a look at Cameron Champ, and there's more to it than just the distance. He is third in driving distance. He's always going to be elite in that. But he goes low when it's easy. That he plays his best when it's easy, and he is 3 for 4 in making the cut at Detroit Golf Club. He has a top 20 here at Detroit Golf Club. At 4%, it's a worthy speculation. I don't know if I'm even going to use it, but he's in consideration for me. All right, let's talk about the 6Ks very, very quickly, and then we'll start making some lineups and get to some questions. Not a whole lot here in the 6Ks. The first one I want to mention is Grayson Sigg. I would not get too hung up on the course value. It's only one time. He much prefers an easy birdie fest type of tournament. You see the putter, pretty good as well on this surface. And he's decent at the long par fours. He's got plenty of statistics that aren't great. I'll give you that, but everybody in the 6K's got warts. So I would take a look at Grayson Sigg, 6,700. Ryan Gerard also at 6,700 at sub 1%. Kind of interesting, all in the fact that he devours par fives. And that's what you got to do here. Devours par fives. So Ryan Gerard, slightly interesting. But the mad scientist play that I want to give you all, the one that I teased at the top of the show, not quite true calls fashion at 6,000, but at 6,100, Kevin Roy, 2.5% owned. You see he's 19th total in my rankings. Again, not the best when it goes when it's easy, but this is his worst statistic. You see he does not have a pink or red statistic. This is his worst. He loves the surface. His irons have been very good in 2023. Takes full advantage of the par fives like you need to. Needs to be better at the par fours. I will give you that. But plenty of distance. Decent at the par threes. He is. If I'm going stars and scrubs builds, and I'm trying to get greedy, I really like Kevin Roy. I'm going to have more exposure to Kevin Roy than I should this week. But that's the mad scientist play for the week. There's a look at the price board, how I see it shaking out, where I think some good pivots and who the good fades are. Let's move to making some lineups. We'll start with tiers for any of the community who play tiers contests. Then we'll move to Classic, and I'll get to your questions. So have those ready and fired up. In tiers contests, Tier 1, you have Tony Finau, Colin Morikawa, and Ricky Fowler. It's tough. I want to take Tony Finau, but I think Ricky is the option in tier 1, and you're just gonna have to find some uniqueness elsewhere in a tiers contest. I'm just not on Morikawa, so I think it's Ricky, but I don't blame you if you want to go Tony Finau and go a bit contrarian in tier 1. But give me Ricky. Tier 2, Max Homa, Justin Thomas, Tom Kim, Hideki, and Cam Davis. Interesting tier. Cam Davis has played this event pretty darn well the past 2 years. So if you're a big believer in course history, I don't think it is much of a factor for Detroit Golf Club. But if you want to factor it in, Cam Davis should be a very high consideration. Everything for me when I think about Detroit Golf Club lines up for Tom Kim. He has to play the par 5s better, but I really like Tom. For me, it's between Tom Kim and Max Homa. Again, I mentioned that I'm a little bit cautious on JT and how the putter was really hot last week. So I can envision that cooling off. Man, I went Ricky in tier 1. I really want to go Tom Kim in tier 2, but that's a lot of chalk. Oh, that's tough. Give me Tom Kim. Like I said, I'm just pretty confident this is a very good fit for Tom Kim. But Max Homa should be pretty good too. Tier 3, Sung Jae, Keegan Bradley, Stefan Jaeger, and Ludwig Aberg. I have my concerns that Aberg is going to be pretty darn popular. I think it's a good play. I think he's going to be popular. And because I've went Tom Kim and Ricky Fowler to start this team, I need to find some uniqueness. So give me Keegan. I think Keegan plays pretty well this week. I can't say he's going to win. I can't predict him to go back-to-back, but I don't see anything that suggests he's going to not going to play well, even off a win. So give me Keegan in tier 3. Tier 4, Brian Harmon, Alex Smalley, Chris Kirk, Tom Hoagie, Sepp Straka, Ben On, and Austin Eckroat. Eckroat's a good play, but he's going to be overwhelmingly chalky. I like Ben On quite a bit. I like Chris Kirk as well. I think I'm going to say Chris Kirk and try to squeeze out a little bit more uniqueness in this tiers lineup. But Ben On is somebody that if you went Tony Finau and or Homa in tier 1 and 2, then really think about Ben On. But because I took so much chalk in these 2 tiers, I'll choose Chris Kirk in tier 4. Tier 5, Hadwin, Taylor Moore, Justin Suh, Aaron Riley, Davis Riley, Nikolai Højgaard, and Christian Bezuidenhout. 2-man tier for me, between Aaron Riley and Højgaard. I'll go with Højgaard. I'll be unique. I'll try to hit a home run. But I do think this sets up very well for Højgaard this week. Finally, tier 6, and I'll move it over. Tier 6, we have Harry Hall, Webb Simpson, Akshay Bhatia, Matt Wallace, Kevin Yu, Cameron Champ. I think that might be it. Yeah. Okay. So those 6. Bhatia, interesting. I like Kevin Yu. I mentioned how Højgaard and the Corrales was a good fit. Matt Wallace won the damn Corrales, so you can think about Matt Wallace. A lot of interesting stuff in here. Cam Champ, I mentioned, could be interesting. But I think I'm going to go with Harry Hall in tier 6. Really, except for Webb, I don't really have an issue with any of these 5. I think they're all pretty solid. So give me Harry Hall. Then probably Cam Champ. No, I'll go Matt Wallace second, Cam Champ third, Batia fourth, and Kevin Yu fifth. And I really like Kevin Yu. But give me Harry Hall in tier 6. All right, there's a look at tiers, contests for those who play tiers. Let's move into classic lineups and see how we can maneuver around the chalk that seems to be very, very prevalent in these big GPPs. So if we're going to try and build a very, very chalky lineup, which we think is going to be very, very popular, we're going to start with the 2 most projected on players. It's Ricky and Hideki. You see, even with those 2 players, you're already matching 6.5%. That's a lot. Good plays. Not disputing that at all. But very, very popular. And going these 2, you are setting yourself up for a 4v4. If you're confident in your 4v4, I think it'll work, but I don't know if I'm willing to take that risk, considering you have 20.5%. I imagine it's going to be even more than that. You have 18.5% with Hideki. From here, I think majority of our fellow contestants are bottoming out at Carson Young. Kevin Yu's also getting some love at 9%. Not a whole lot in the 6Ks. I see Vincent Norman at 7.7, 6.5 on Grayson Sig. So really, our fellow contestants are bottoming out at Carson Young. Moving up, looks like Doug Gim, a little 12%. Your boy P, Mark Hubbard. We'll go Mark Hubbard. He's probably going to be a little bit more popular than Doug Gim. That would be my guess. Austin Eckroat. Is that going to be enough? No. Dang. Looks like we're going to use Doug Gim and then go to Mark Hubbard. This will leave 100 on the table, but a 15.5% match in your big GPPs, that is ugly. Ugh. Wouldn't want no part of that at all. And again, the 2 main culprits are up here, but I mean, Eckroat's very, very popular as well. Carson Young, your most projected owned player in the low 7s. You're just setting yourself up for a very, very difficult week. This will probably cash. This will probably min cash. But if you're wanting a top tier potential lineup that can really climb the leaderboards, I don't see it in this because it's just too popular. Other ways that this could go, I'm going to just try to use some different names. If our fellow contestants are going more of a bit more of a balanced build, perhaps, well, I guess we'll start with Sung Jae. Tom Kim's still fairly pricey at 98. They're going Sung Jae, and they'll drop to Ludwig Aberg, or Dayberg, however. Ludwig Aberg, Alex Smalley right under him, getting quite a bit of love as well. And then moving on down, Ben On. I imagine Austin Eckroat is in this, or maybe you substitute Eckroat for Ben On. Just trying to use some different names for you all. But at 7,500, it's these same players. We might throw Aaron Rye into this. Yeah, we can do that. Aaron Rye, no, it's $100 more. Damn it. So again, it's Mark Hubbard. 11.8 is Doug Gim. Adam Shank at 10%. This is going to be a bit more unique than what this lineup will be. You know, maybe this is Tom Kim. Maybe this is Austin Eckroat. But again, 13%. Pretty popular type of balanced build what you have here. So how are we going to maneuver around this? Well, one of the first ways you can go about it is you can just match up in the areas of the price board. I mentioned Max Homa at 12.5%. I get it. It's coming off a miscut, won't be the most confidence-inspiring. But Tony Finau, your defending champion. I have to imagine he's going to be more than 12.5%, but if he's not, you're getting one of the three premier players in this field at probably one of the most unique ownerships in the 10Ks. You can go with Tony Finau, and then coming on down, I've said, I just don't see Keegan Bradley missing the cut here. Famous last words, that'll be clipped next week and all that, but everything analytically lines up for Keegan to play pretty darn well here. So you can match up those two. You got to start saving a little bit of money here, but I've mentioned several players in the low sevens that I really like. Kevin Yu. You can think about Cam Champ. If you want to go with Finau, make a bomber type lineup, go Cam Champ. And that's already saving you some money. Batia would be a worthy look. S.H. Kim, Harry Hall. I'll throw in S.H. Kim because I really like Harry Hall and I'll use him in my stars and scrubs. But Cam Champ, S.H. Kim. Now you're at this 8,000 mark where you can really go however, what direction you want. I mentioned Nikolai Højgaard. I think is a very interesting speculation this week. 8,100 is Adam Hadwin. No thanks on that. But you see, we're at 5 players. We're not even close to 10%. You can probably take Austin Eckroat with this combination. Still leaving 100 on the table. You're at sub 10%. More than likely, this is a unique lineup. Thanks to S.H. Kim and Cameron Champ. If you don't like Cameron Champ, I get it. It's going to be probably a little bit too chalky, but take a look at Carson Young. Even then, 10.5%. Might duplicate once or twice, but you're pretty unique here in S.H. Kim and Højgaard, Keegan. But the shell of the lineup that I have been using the most, I mentioned it's the mad scientist play. I'll go all the way down to Kevin Roy at 6,100. And with that, I'm going mayhem up here. I'll start my team with Homa. I don't mind using a Tom Kim or a Sung Jae. I'll go Tom Kim. A little bit more popular than what I would like, but it is what it is. I mentioned Harry Hall. And, I'm in the mid-8s here. I can even grab another 9 if I wanted to. A Cam Davis, a Keegan Bradley, and, fill it out with a mid-7 or so. I have to think Taylor Pendrith should be pretty good. Like 7,400 would be interesting. If I want to balance this out, Ludwig Aberg, who I think is going to be pretty good. Again, a little bit more chalky than I would like, but should be good. And we're back at this 8,100, which is Austin Eckroat. Taylor Moore, he's 14th. We didn't really talk about him. Goes low when it's easy. Not the best on par 5s. Really, his big draw is par 4s. And they're kind of mitigated here. I think it's okay. I'm not in love with it. I think it's okay. But again, this is Nikolai Højgaard. This is Hubbard. Aaron Rye, maybe. Let's see. Well, I'll just throw a Højgaard. I've used him a lot, but I'm really high on him. Sub 10%. Again, probably looking at a unique lineup. Obviously because of Kevin Roy, but Harry Hall is not really all that popular. Max Homa for the 10Ks really isn't all that popular. So that's the shell of a lineup that I've been gravitating towards the most. if I'm using Kevin Rory, I'm trying to go Max Homa, Tom Kim, maybe even go Keegan Bradley and drop down off of Højgaard into, maybe a Gordon Sargent or a Taylor Pendrith, a Nate Lashley, something to that effect. And then rounding it out with a low 7 of, S.H. Kim, Harry Hall, Cam Champ, and so on. That's what I have for you all for the Rocket Mortgage this week. For full transparency to the community, Darnell and I talked a little bit earlier. My pick in the 1v1 with Darnell is Tom Kim. Reminder that if you want to continue the DFS discussion, I will be over in Gabe's Substack chat. He writes a very good article called The Fringe. We will be continuing the DFS talk over in his chat, which I'm very thankful that he has invited me to continue the discussion over there. So thanks to Darnell and P and Mark for jumping in the chat. Much appreciated. Thanks to everyone else out there who tunes in, watches, listens, supports the channel by liking the videos, commenting, subscribing. I always appreciate it. Love what I do, taking an in-depth look at sports statistics and trying to help win some money in the process. So for all the wagers that you have made this week for the Rocket Mortgage, for all of the DFS contests you've entered this week for the Rocket Mortgage, for this weekend and every weekend, may all your bets be profitable.